Please stand for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. It's the best crowd we've had in a while. Must be the nice weather. All right.
Well, we're catching up from the bad weather that got canceled a couple of times, so, we're putting several things together tonight.
Is there any discussion on the agenda? Is there a motion?
I move that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. Again, any discussion on the consent agenda?
And just want you to know, the reason there are not, some of the financial reports that you normally have is because we're a week early, and so they haven't all come through yet, so that's why it's a shortened list today.
Okay.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'm sorry. Think about something else. Motion carries. We'll move on to recognitions.
Okay, I'm going to have Dr. Johnson, I'm going to have you start with your Stuco kids. They've been canceled twice. We also have Carrie Hansen. She's one of the counselors at the middle school, and I will also be her birthday today. She's like, you really didn't have to say that, Dusty.
All right, well, thank you guys for being here. First of all, parents and Stuco kids, thank you guys for being here today. Like I said, or Mr. Brown just said, Mrs. Hansen's birthday is here today. I'm so happy that I was able to get her up here. It's awesome. I think our office staff treated her pretty good today, but we are fortunate to have her here. So FSMS Stuco, this was the first year. This was the first year that we implemented basically a student leadership team. So we wanted to make sure we started building some capacity with our kids. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids were nominated by their teachers at the beginning of the year, and they were selected by them. And they have pretty much been involved with myself, Ms. Hansen, as well as Mrs. Claypool through various projects. And this being kind of the first year, we wanted to really kind of get a good baseline for things that we can expand on and expand that capacity into future years. But overall, this is a student leadership team. These kids are, again, selected, and they have all the qualifications you want and all the qualifications you desire as kids grow up through the school system and go out to the workforce. So we're very fortunate to have them. So some of the activities that these kids have been doing, one, I'll let Ms. Hansen talk a little bit more here in just a second, but there's 4 Greenbush Leadership Academy events that they're exposed to throughout the year. On the pictures that you guys have in front of you, you may be able to see some of the activities that they took part of, but I'll let her talk a little bit more about that. But those are 4 experiences they got to have throughout the year. They have 1 more left. On top of that, just this Wednesday, we're actually going to go over to Winfield Scott, and they're going to do a reading project with the elementary kids, as well as have lunch with them as well. Another activity is they were able to present and help organize the Veterans Day Assembly this year, and they did a great job with that. Also, once a month, since I believe about October, I have invited business leaders in the community to come and just share with them some of the experiences that they've had running their business or just in leadership in general. So far, Bailey Lyons, Mitch Quick have both have came, and then Bob Campbell's going to be coming here in another month or so. We are welcome to invite community leaders, and we'd like for them to be a part of sharing, what leadership looks like in the real world to our kids. We do that once a month. On top of that, these guys have been awesome, showing appreciation to teachers. They wrote Christmas cards, thank you cards, put some small gifts together for our teachers right at the end of right before Christmas break started. Personalized notes, so they did a great job with that. But even on top of that, bigger than that, them partnering with the administration and just finding ways to improve our school and just get better. We need their voice at the table, and we need to continue that process through future years. But that is really the big idea of our Stuco. Would you like to talk just real quick about Greenbush?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Greenbush leadership workshops have been focusing on 4 frames of leadership, which hopefully one of the students wants to come up and discuss a little bit further. Explore what it means to be in student council and being a representative, and what it means to be a leader. The students work together to come up with their own definitions of what leadership means, why we need leaders, and who are leaders. And so seeing them work together, and not just with themselves, but in some of these pictures you can see there's a lot of students there, and so they were able to socialize and plan and discuss and strategize with other students from other schools. So it's been awesome, and hopefully if we have a few minutes, let someone.
Would anybody like to share real quick? Any experience? Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
You want to?
Gianna, come on, Gianna. Come on up.
So I know with student council, it's just been a fun experience. We've been able to just go to the Greenbush programs. We've been able to talk with other students and learn more about leadership, how to be a leader, how you can help by your community by being a leader. Different ways of that. It's just
Okay.
been a really fun experience for me.
Thank you. All right, well, again, very thankful for these kids, very thankful for their parents, their involvement. All of them have terrific parents and been very supportive. We actually had a couple days where we didn't even have school, and yet we still had kids willing to go to the Greenbush Leadership Academy. So I thought that spoke very highly of the parents and our kids participating in that. But at the end of the day, we'd like to recognize them real quick with our certificates. We will announce them real quick. We don't have everybody here, but we still would like to make a formal announcement. So Lucas Bukowski is one of our 6th graders. He is not here. Gentry Palmer, I think I saw her. Come on up, Gentry. And then Sterling Kuhn, I don't think I saw Sterling. Riley Steppen, I don't think I saw her. Joe Lewis, I saw Joe. And then Presley Seabolt, she is not here. John Hill, come on up, John. And then Madeline Isaac, who I don't think is here. And then Abel Chaplin. And then Gianna Gorman. And then Theodore Bowman, who's not here. And then Lorelei Clark. And I believe that is it. If we could give them a round of applause for their
And so, you guys can go out in the front, and Delane will take your picture, and we'll get that sent to the newspaper, so we can, recognize you to the community.
Congratulations.
So, good job. Thank you, guys. Okay, now we have, the theater folks here to talk to you, about the school theater for this year.
Hello, I'm Angie Ben. I'm the theater director at the high school, and March is Theater in Our Schools Month, as well as Music in Our Schools Month. So it's a good time for us to come in and let you know a little bit about what we've been working on throughout the past year. And we're going to place a slideshow behind us with just some pictures throughout the year, but I've also shared this with all of you so you can go back and read it later when you have more time. And we had a big party today to celebrate, so there are some theater-themed cupcakes that you can grab as well and have a little snack on the way home. I want to introduce to you Lexi Hill. Lexi is our thespian president, and she is a senior. And then Cooper George is our thespian vice president. He's a junior. Both of these students plan to go into the field of theater in the future. So they're going to tell you a little bit about what theater education means to them and what they've been working on this year.
So, theater has an important place in my life and always will. In theater, I was taught confidence, quick thinking, problem solving, and teamwork. Being on stage and backstage, I've made so many great connections to the people, and it truly is a family. All my experience have shaped me into the person I am today, which is why I'm such a huge advocate for more theater education and funding so that kids can learn these skills and find passion. I started in 6th grade with the middle school after middle school drama club, which was every day or every Friday, after school every Friday. Sorry, and the high school drama students would come over and we would play improv games. At first, I was very hesitant to speak out, but over time, I gained confidence. I went from an anxious little girl who could barely answer a question in class to be able to make friends and talk to people I didn't know. I am now thespian president this year, and I've been so grateful to lead and work with all my classmates and even get more people involved in the program. Being a senior, the question, what are you going to do for college, is always a scary thought. But since sophomore year, I knew I wanted to do something in this field. I found my passion in lighting design and have gotten and received several scholarships and offers from colleges for my work. Theater isn't just a fun hobby, it is a career, and it could even end up with a full ride to college. Theater education is important and always will be. Even if students don't pursue it as a career, the environment is setting them up for success. And there are many ways that you guys can support theater by attending shows, promoting programs on social media, or attending fundraisers. This shows the school that people do care about the performing arts. Now my Vice President Cooper George will go more into the skills he's learned from theater education.
Thank you, Lexi. So theater education has taught me many skills and lessons that I'm going to be taking into the future. This ranged from working with different type of personalities, having better communication, assessing different situations and how to handle them properly, to creating self-solving skills and standing with myself. For example, the time where I had to use some of these skills was during Guys and Dolls, the musical we did this year. I was the stage manager for the first time in my theater career, and I had no clue what I was doing because I had no experience with it. But I knew that I had a impact, and so I still showed up every day. And to be honest, there were some days where I really dread going to rehearsals, but knowing that my absence would affect the entire show, I still went besides myself because that is something that theater has taught me and is something that I'm going to be taking into the future with me. So therefore, I like to say theater, in a sense, gives you a trial run at being adults and showing you how to do different opportunities and skills.
We've done many things throughout this year. We always have a fall musical and a spring play. This year we did Guys and Dolls and Arsenic and Old Lace for our shows. And upcoming we have our children's show that we will be doing, which is Sleeping Beauty. We also did a children's Christmas show to get children involved, and it was Twas the Night Before Christmas, which Cooper directed.
Something else we do every year is go to the Kansas State Thespian Festival. This year we had Regan Wells and Junie Fisher get a superior rating, which is allowing them to go to International Thespian Festival for free. Our improv team also placed in finals.
I also received a scholarship that only 10 seniors in all of Kansas who are involved in theater get for my technical theater audition that I did while there. We also did a lot of fundraising this year for one of our members, Piper Weeks, who is currently like to ask of you, the board member, is like your support with coming to shows, supporting new and safe equipment and funding for that, updating tech so students who are going into the field are familiar with like industry standards that like they would be using, because some of our stuff is pretty outdated. But so like any possible like support you guys have for that, just like even just voicing it would be much help.
If you guys would like to come support us on the 26th in May, we have our upcoming talent show. March. Sorry, March, as well as the Mr. Beauty pageant, which is always fun to see.
Yeah, so March 26th at 7 p.m. Be there. Thank you so much for your time. Do you guys have any questions for us? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
And Delaney will get you guys too and get your picture out in front.
you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Tanya?
Okay. That was awesome. I have people pass through my office on a regular basis, and last spring, I happened to be in town when they were having their Thespians garage sale on the stage at the old there in the auditorium. And there are things in my office that I bought at that garage sale, and I redid them, and they are down there, and people comment on them all the time. They're like, where did you get those? I said, the Thespians garage sale. So,
March 29th and 30th.
perfect, all right, well, I'll probably be there, all right. I am so pleased that, Mina, would you join me, please? Sorry, I didn't call you today, I'm sorry. We have the opportunity to recognize some outstanding staff, and this month I got a hold of Mina over at Eugene Ware, and I said, hey, you know, I haven't been able to ask you this, but what about Eugene Ware recognitions? And she quickly named off 3 people, and so they are here tonight. Well, one of them is not able to be here. She has real small children, and she was a little uncomfortable bringing them. So the first one that we're going to do is Tabitha Hardesty, and she kind of goes by Tab. Come on up. And I'm going to let Mina hand her these and say a couple of things about her.
Well, I can't say enough about Tab this year. She has taken on a big role in our focus room and works with our kids who truly need it the most. And her patience and acceptance and relationships with kids is absolutely amazing, and I don't know how we function in the day without her, so I'm so thankful she works at Eugene Ware.
Our next one, Sarah Rude, she is not able to be here, but I'll have Mina make a couple of comments about Sarah as well, and then we will send these to Sarah.
Sarah she's newer. This is her 2nd year, but it's been amazing to watch her take on small group instruction. She does wonderful at it, and I can see in her a future teacher right there, and she's going to do amazing things, and I can't wait to see where she's at in a few years.
She's entering the para to teach
Yes.
program.
Yes, so we are
with
hoping.
Wichita State, or not Wichita State, I think she's going through Pitt State.
Okay, all right. So lastly, well, not necessarily, Erin Thurston is here, and I will let Mina do the honors as well.
Well, this is Erin's first year here, and she has just been consistently there for the kids. She shows up, she's kind, she's patient, she's where she needs to be. If a kid is struggling, she's the first one there beside them, and we just couldn't ask for anything more, so thank you, Erin.
I'll get some more.
Oh, okay.
Same picture, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Mina, while you're up here, I'll let you talk about Sherry.
All right, well, Sherry Lindsay.
Come here, Sherry.
Yes, come on up, Sherry. This one's definitely a little bit more emotional for me. I have worked with Sherry Lindsay for 17 years, and I can tell you my first year of teaching, I looked at her and said, that's the teacher that I want to be. She is absolutely amazing, so I was able to look at her as a mentor, then a colleague, and then the honor to be her principal. But it is amazing to see whether we take on Fast Bridge or iReady. She is the first to dive in, never complains, learns it, guides all the teachers around, is And my absolute favorite thing about her is anytime there's an issue and she brings it to me, she has 2 to 3 solutions already thought out. So I'm not even sure what I'm there for other than to nod my head, and she likes to give me a lot more credit when she truly is the one that deserves it, so.
After 30 years, I've got this figured out.
She does, for sure. We're lucky to have her.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Dan? And Brad, come on up. They've been in the hole all day over at the stadium trying to find water leaks.
It was a good day. So I'd like to highlight just a few of the things I've seen Brad show his proficiency in the last year. November would have been his year going around. Had no idea what to expect when Brad hired on. Never really worked with him before. I'd heard his name, but never had. So in the last year, small side, I've seen residential and commercial HVAC. I've seen residential and commercial electric. I've seen him rebuild electric motors, electric pumps, boilers, chillers. He took to the digital HVAC controls we have that usually takes years to figure out. In the first month and a half, he became very proficient with it. I haven't done a plumbing project without him. Hydraulics on mowers, wheel cylinders, skid steers, tractors, we've done those. The auto mechanics, when we needed to move a snowplow from a 95 Chevy truck that was kind of clapped out and put it on a 2015, Brad was the one that grabbed all the wiring harnesses and made it look like brand new and function with the lights and turns and everything to perfection. They don't make them, but he's creative, found a way, and did it in a hurry. He's proficient with refrigeration, welding and fabrication. If I need to find a parts procurement, I mean, years and years of doing this, he knows the name of every supplier and person that has said part, and he can find it or borrow it. It's something to find somebody that has a good enough standing relation with everybody in the county that has a piece of machinery or a tool, and they trust him enough to let us borrow it so we don't have to randomly rent things. And then anything mechanical. I mean, truly we found a jack of all trades, so I've been impressed. He picked up everything fast. He takes responsibility for problems that he didn't cause, things that have been done incorrectly over years past. We're not going to roll over on somebody. He'll come in and take responsibility for it. Stays busy every day. Some of my favorite things, he won't let me dig a hole alone. He won't let me dig things out of a sewer pipe by myself. He's there. When every other warm body's running the other way, Brad's the first one to show up with his tools and a get it done attitude. And it's been refreshing and pretty confidence building for myself because I've been able to cut my weekly work hours, I mean, not quite in half, but I leave at 40 hours this last 6-8 months just because of Brad's help, and that was never something that was going to happen in the last 6 or 7 years. And that confidence and having a good right-hand man has allowed me to attack big items that I wanted to do, but I just wasn't able to do manpower-wise or skill set-wise before. That it's been a huge asset and a huge savings to the district, and to come to all these with an open mind and a creative mind to some of the harebrained fixes that I want to tackle, and to attack them with a mindset of money is an object. There is a cap. We can find an affordable way to do this and do this right the first time is something that's very, very hard to find nowadays. I can't think of, if I could find 3 more of them on staff, it would be great. Until then, we're just gonna roll me and Brad. I'd like to put it out there, Brad 2024 for president.
Brad, thank you very much. You're our classified staff member of the month, and go have a drink on us. Brad, don't run off, because Lane's gonna take your picture out there. So you-
I figured that means we don't have to buy no more new vehicles.
You'll get a picture on the way out.
Wow, that was good. And the rest of you stayed. All right. Is that all you have, Destry?
That's all recognition.
All right.
I have one more.
I thought you
forgot.
did.
I'm sorry. Scott, you have one you want to recognize?
Yep. Kenny, you want to come up?
Thank you. Uncle Mike.
Kenny, I wouldn't let him forget you. It may have been the very end before I got you in. But we weren't going to let you forget. This is Kim Miles. She's a sophomore at the high school. She was a wrestler for the high school. This year her record is 40-3, right at 110 pounds. And last year you placed 4th at the state tournament, is that correct? And this year she went back and she placed 1st. So she is Fort Scott High School's first female state champion in school history. And her teammates as well, the lady wrestlers are are paving the way for future ladies behind them. And so we really want to recognize you for doing that and standing up there and taking those chances at a young age. It's quite remarkable. So congratulations for your accomplishments.
Going into state, I really didn't think I was going to win it, honestly, because the girl that I lost to last year in the semis, she was at the very top of my bracket, and when I seen she went 0-2, I don't know, kind of just said I could, and made it to the finals. I was a nervous wreck before the finals, all day. Woke up at 6:15, went and weighed in, and then whole day had to go get my little stress ball and play catch with some of my friends. And when finals came, I wasn't really as nervous. I just had the mindset, go out there and try your best no matter what. And just, yeah, it just kind of happened. Yeah.
That's great.
What was the score of your match?
5-8.
5-8. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very proud of you. Thank you.
Very.
And remember that you say 8-5.
8-5.
Sounds much better.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delaney, you want to get her shot too, please?
I'm reading this notebooks right there.
Move on to superintendent's report. Destry?
Okay, so I gave you, at your table, I gave you an attendant or enrollment sheet. And so just so you compare where we were on September 20th, where we are today. Now, just so you know, that can be a little misleading, because if you look at preschool, that's where most of our new students are coming in. We've had 16 new preschool students since September 20th. So if you take that 16, that makes the 1781. Without them, we'd be holding steady. So I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up of this is where we are right now, and as we get closer to the end of spring, you'll see kind of how I use those numbers to start planning for budget for next year. So anyway, I just wanted to give you an update on enrollment. The second thing, I have Mr. Kimball and Mr. Messer here to talk to you about the new graduation requirements. So I'm going to let them talk to you about that.
I'll kind of start, and Josh will correct me for anything I say wrong, and he'll also answer all your difficult questions. So this really started probably last year, sometime around January. The state started pushing stuff out about changing some graduation requirements. This year, every Thursday at 12:30, the KSD has a Zoom. They talk about the different requirements and stuff. So Mr. Messer and I, we attend that. I'm pretty certain that when we go through the requirements themselves, they probably won't change. They continue to change some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, who's qualified to teach, like financial literacy, those type of things. But as far as the requirements, I'm pretty sure those are going to pretty much stay the same. So on the single sheet, if you look at the top is what our current graduation requirements: the 4 English, 3 Math, 3 Science, Social Studies, 1 Fine Arts, 1 PE, and 6 elective credits. Those are the 21 state required credits that the state requires. And then as Fort Scott High School, we require a half a credit of speech, a half a credit of personal finance, and then 3 more elective classes to get us to the 25 required credit requirements for graduation of Fort Scott High School. So those are what we require now. Right below that, this will start with the class of 2028, which is the next year's incoming freshman class. So they're going to drop the English credits down to 3.5 credits of English, but they're going to require communication credit. So for communications, that would involve
speech, debate, forensics, journalism.
Business communication.
Well, yes. So there's not just speech that goes into the communications.
What was the other one, business what?
Well, business communications.
Business.
We've required speech for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but speech class in itself is not the only way you can earn your speech credit.
Correct.
So we ourselves have other opportunities for kids that do that.
And then the 3 credits of math will stay the same. Science will stay the same. Social studies will still be 3. Fine arts, PE, and then the STEM elective credit. The state's going to require 1 STEM elective credit. And if you turn in the packet I gave you, I didn't want to put it on because it's all in here. I don't know what page it is, but it says STEM. It also says 3 units of science and then 3 units of math, 7, and then the 1 STEM credit. That involves like a computer science class, advanced math class, so any dual credit. Calculus count for advanced math. Any of our dual credits, advanced science classes, robotics, our advanced CTE classes, which those are the application level classes, and the capstone class for all CTE courses that we have, pathways, advanced technology, and then advanced agriculture. So that 1 STEM, the students can earn that STEM credit by taking all those classes, and we offer all of those, basically. Mr. Glades, all of his computer science classes, both Ms. Harper and Ms. Felt teach advanced math. We have dual credit biology, and we have robotics. We have 16, 17 pathways the students can utilize to achieve that. So we'll be fine with offering students the STEM possibilities as well. And then the half credit for is going to change it. We'll have to change it from personal finance to financial literacy for the state's half credit graduation. And then underneath that it says 4.5 IPS credits. So those 4.5 credits will be driven by their individual plans of study. So that's where things like tonight, our student-led conferences, and having parents come will be even more important, because that's really going to drive those students' IPS credits for graduation. And yes, they can change. We know students change their minds just like adults change their mind. And that's a frequently asked question, and the answer would be?
Well, the answer would be, even though you've earned those credits, you've earned the credits. So if I change from I want to be a welder and I've already got 2 credits or 2.5 credits in that pathway, if I change my mind to business, I don't lose those 2.5 credits. I just change my pathway and my desires for post-secondary outcomes. So we just put those in that category and then start out the other ones.
Well, those individual plans of study will really help guide what those classes are. And then that'll be the 21 credit requirements from the state. And then they're also gonna have two post-education assets. And I'm gonna let Mr. Messer talk about that.
So post-secondary assets those are all come from the state. And there's 2 pages in that, the colored handout that we gave you. But, they are pretty broad. They're all good things, you know, that kids should be doing in high school. These are all things that we've preached to kids for a long time about, you know, being able to put on scholarship applications, and college applications, things like that. But all these come from the state. I don't know how we're gonna keep track of all these, but we're gonna figure it out. Because, I mean, there's things from outside of school that will count, you know, towards these, 4-H. We have kids that are earning, credits in foreign languages that we don't offer. Kids that are doing like, there's different programs, Duolingo, I mean, all kinds of things that kids can do and do already, accomplished, we'll be able to count for these. But the first page is really more those, career and outside school options. And then the second page is more of the academic stuff. You know, you score a composite of 21 or higher on the ACT, you take 9 or more college credits while you're in high school, state assessment scores, ASVAB scores, the senior project, senior exit interviews we currently do. You know, we could look at that. Scoring a 3 or higher on any AP exam. So, you know, it's pretty broad. I don't think the state is gonna say, these are the only ones we can do. I think they're gonna say, if it makes sense and it fits in these categories, then we can count it. But that's my opinion, not fact yet, so we don't know that for sure.
I take your opinion as fact every day, so. Anyway, and then, also with that those 2 assets is FAFSA. They're gonna recommend it. School parents can opt out of completing the FAFSA, and schools can opt out of, completing the FAFSA. My recommendation, we know that's the #1 barrier for kids going on to post-secondary is financial. So I would say as a school, we would opt in, we would keep that, and then allow the parents to opt out if they choose so to do that.
What's FAFSA, just in case?
Financial aid, I don't know what it all stands for, federal assistance.
Federal application for free student aid. That's where the Pell Grant comes from, work study, and, there's loans that go through that too.
And then even some of our high school scholarships that are given out here, our local scholarships, they ask for that. And some of them, if the student just fills out the application and supplies their FAFSA form, then they receive money for that. So there's a lot of benefits for students to do that. Plus it eliminates the barrier. A lot of students believe they don't have the funds or the financial ability to go to school. And if we can eliminate that barrier for them and help them see that it is affordable and here's how they can do it, whether it's college or tech schools or whatever, it gives them more opportunities later on. So after those, then we would only have that's the 21 credits, so ours would basically be 4 elective credits to get to the 25. Because we remove those, speech becomes a required class, personal finance becomes a required class. So we would have 4 electives for the 25 that required to graduate here. Questions on that top part?
So a couple of them
Yep.
is kind of, like if they do dual credits while they're in high school, they can knock out that 9 hours without doing anything extra, it's just
Yeah,
built
yeah,
right
yeah,
in.
yeah.
And then on the STEM elective credit, it says advanced math, so if they're just on a pathway of taking like an advanced math class, they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You say you've been talking about this since January of last year?
They started putting it together, let us know that it was coming out. Really, this year's when they kind of got the framework with that.
They just released it to us, this year in January, for us
So-
to be starting to get input. They're getting input, they've been tweaking it, it hasn't been formally approved yet.
So this is set in stone or not?
It is not yet.
Okay. So when do we start working on our curriculum then to fit this?
Yeah, so
Or is that in the next section?
Some of that's in the next
Oh,
section.
Carry on, I'm sorry.
No, you're perfectly- Any other questions about the classes? Those are great questions. The requirements, credits, or any of those things. post-secondary assets. When it comes to those acronyms, I can tell you the acronyms, but I don't know what they all mean, so that's why I bring Mr. Messer with me. And Mrs. Barnes, she uses acronyms all the time, and have to, with her, I gotta know exactly what she's saying, I don't understand special ed acronyms all the time. But anyway, so if you move down, so that, to answer your question, I'll start with, for us, start working on implementing these. Really, we could start tomorrow with all these, because really for us, nothing would change. We already have our speech classes in place. We've already started to change some of the stuff in our course catalog, like financial literacy and some of that stuff. Personal finance was part of the CT pathways, but the CT's dropping that as a pathway because it's becoming a graduation requirement. And the state did the, through the CT funds and stuff, they're not gonna fund a class that's required for everybody to take. So they're already making those changes, and so we're like our personal finance class, the course description and stuff, that stuff's already been changed. So for us, really, we could start next year meeting these requirements because we have everything in place. Already having speech as a requirement, personal finance as a district has allowed us to kind of be ready for when this came down. So for us, keeping track, like Mr. Messer said, how we're going to track all this stuff, how we're going to maintain that database for each. Those individual plans of study are going to be hugely important. Students keeping that electronically, being able to prove the documentation that they're a Eagle Scout or a Gold Scout or we're in 4-H and those things, that could all be kept within their IPS. That would allow us to be able to document that for graduation. Some of it we'll know, 90% attendance in high school. They've talked about increasing that. That's one of the things they've talked about, increasing. We only want kids that are 90%, or that was in one of the Zoom meetings we talked about raising that up to like 95%. So some of this may change, but social studies is one that we'd like to make some changes to. We'd like to do it kind of in 2 steps. Currently, we have students that take dual credit government, and they take it at the community college in the summer. And it's basically a four-week class, and they're earning the 1 credit, high school credit for that as well. With the 3 credit, they get 4 weeks, they get 3 college credit and 1 high school credit. Currently, our students, if they take it at the high school, take it for the whole year. Even our dual credit students have to take it for the whole year. I think Ms. Jackman does an awesome job. I think, her year is obviously, I believe, better than 4 weeks class. But what we'd like to do next year is to offer dual credit government for a semester, just like it is at the college, because they're getting 3 credits of that, but then to give them the 1 credit for their social studies credit for government that they need because the state only tells us they need half a credit. Fort Scott High School requires a whole credit of that. And so next year we'd like to offer a full credit for a half a credit of college dual credit government. The regular class would still be a whole year. And then when we come back in 25, 26, make government a half a credit required graduation, and then they would still need an additional credit. And we would look at doing that through kind of like a menu selection options. We offer history of assassinations, we offer local history, we offer sociology and psychology that we'd also like to offer as a history credits. A lot of districts utilize them. Both those are dual credit classes. And then they talked about econ. The social studies department's talked about econ, or it's geography. And that would also give, like Mr. Barnes and Mrs. Jackman and those that teach government, a year to shrink down a whole year's class and instead of trying to do it from now till August. So kind of look at that as a two-year plan to change that.
And with the financial literacy, you were talking to me this morning about, they tell you what needs to be in the course, is that right, from the state?
Yes.
And so we would need to do some curriculum work on
Yes,
that.
yeah, they changed the description of that.
And it makes it so that almost anybody can teach it.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a social studies teacher.
Yeah, they broadened that. One meeting, Mr. Messer and I said that, it was business, facts, social studies, maybe another one. And then the next week, they changed that wording to anybody with a bachelor's degree that's had financial training in their curriculum or have done PD on it can teach it, basically. that's put into Scott's terms. Oh,
We don't have to hire any new staff members.
No.
To be able to meet these requirements. It will change some of our curriculums. We'll be re-looking at those as we go next year. We don't have to offer those yet next year, so we've got a couple of years to get them all in place, because it'll be for the freshman kids coming in.
yes.
And most of the freshman classes are their required classes. They have a couple, how many electives do they have their freshman year?
2 or 3.
And so, some of them will start in their pathways already.
Yep.
And we already have the pathways in place and ready to go. So, the main thing will be, and they've been working with the middle school to get the IPS ready to go and in place before they even get to the high school. And so they're starting to think about that at the middle school level and get the IPS in place, the individual plan of study. And then when they get to the high school, it'd be a matter of they review it, they look at it. That's part of your activity period time with those teachers, and that's part of what those parent-teacher conferences
Yes.
are about as well. So they can tweak those, they can change them. I can, as an 8th grader, you're not tied to one. If you said that's what you want to do in 8th grade, you don't have to do it if you change your mind. You can change that pathway, you can change it a couple of times if you want to. But, that was my question this morning, was what happens if they change?
And I'm sure in their IPS, we probably have to continue to keep track of, and I don't know how the state's gonna audit all that or look at it, but, Mr. Messer started out in welding and then he moved to business and now he's into math, or he's going to be a teacher in mathematics or whatever. So we could show that those were IPS classes that he took based on what he wanted to do at that time.
And at the high school level, we have everybody with an IPS now, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
So, that won't change our practice, except it will add more teeth to it and keep it, on the front burner rather than the back burner.
Yeah, and I think a couple things, if we turn it over on the back, a couple things that we'd like to do. Currently, we don't have an early graduation policy that I've seen, so I would like to present one that early graduation for December of a student's senior year for December, so they graduate early. We have quite a few, there'd always be exceptions, gifted IEPs and, those exceptions along the way, but we would take early graduation, December of their senior year. The other thing is classes required, 7 classes per semester, we could drop it to 5, they could have 2 hours of early release the second semester, but those classes would be like college classes or work study classes that are really driven by their IPS, their individual plans of study, to really, instead of just, they're getting out to go to work somewhere, but, we want them to go do that, how can we tie it to their IPS and what they want to do to get that experience moving forward? So.
We have more and more kids that are asking to graduate at the end of their junior year. And we just feel like that they need to be there through at least this first semester of their senior year. And the way they're doing that is they're picking up additional classes in the summers and things so they can graduate at the end of their junior year. So we would like to make that senior year a little more meaningful and keep them here for that first semester.
On the 3.5 English credits, do you see that, like that half credit being for their senior year, when they would be getting that 3.5, and so would that add flexibility if it's only a half, one semester instead of a full year of being in an English class?
Yes, and it could also be when they're taking their communication credit, they could take British Lit, and communication back to back, or, hopefully, I know Mr. Messer kinda likes to get some of those done their junior year or first semester, in case something goes wrong, they have second semester, for that as well. So that would also, if they did a half credit, that would open up, that's why I said the second semester,
Right.
they went 5 hours and then had 2 hours early release or whatever.
or even if they had a misstep in English, and somewhere along the way, they have another semester their senior year to be able to catch it up.
I know several years ago I had somebody ask me a lot about a weighted grade scale.
Yeah.
Is that anywhere on discussion anywhere?
No.
Okay. Just curious.
Unless you
Other
wanted it
questions?
to be.
I'm sorry?
Unless you wanted it to be. I couldn't tell you why, I never really been anywhere where we've done, I know a lot of schools do it. There's pros and cons to both sides of that. We recognize, we don't have valedictorians, salutatorians, so, really, what would we be waiting for?
Just curious, thank
We
you.
have a weighted grading scale in some of our courses. The AP courses, most of our AP courses have a weighted grading scale. I don't know of any college that wants a weighted GPA. Scholarships all ask for based on a 4.0. I mean, we haven't had a lot of kids go to Stanford and Yale and Harvard, but even the kids that I've worked with that have applied there, it's all still based on a 4.0. I understand the logic and the reason behind the weighted GPAs, but that's always, in my experience, why we haven't gone on with it.
Thank
Did
you.
have a
Because
student,
it's come up several times since I've been in Fort Scott.
It has.
Mhm.
we had a student interview with Columbia today,
Oh, yeah.
in my office.
So then like 4.0 would be a class rank of 1, and we would just have multiple, like, how, is that what that would read?
Yes.
Yeah, and we do, but we don't do salutatory methods. So we have a lot that have 4.0s.
Any other questions?
Joe?
Just one thought, I know a high school senior, and they told me that they get out of school every day at 10 o'clock in the morning because they go to work. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're gonna fix some of that.
Is that?
That's what we was talking about, because for me, just being new to Fort Scott, or new back to Fort Scott, we have so many kids who are off, like, from 10 o'clock on, or they come in at noon, and they have a couple of classes and then do activities. I don't think we're doing what we need to prepare kids for going to college or going to work when we just let them coast for a year, because I think that develops a lot of bad habits, and so that's just my opinion. And
Well, I just didn't know, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but are they getting credits for where they go from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock? And how do you, or is that, do they not necessarily have to go somewhere from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock?
Some kids are on work release, work experience.
And then you have some way of monitoring that they're actually there?
No, it's-
Some of them,
You can tell what I did.
That's not the norm.
I was
by
just
the way.
curious, cause it's.
We may have a kid or two that has that schedule.
Cause I don't remember that even being an option.
But the only way that a kid can do that, we can get back to graduation requirements. 25 graduation requirements are required to graduate. If they come all 4 years and pass every class, they're gonna have 32. So the senior year has slowly evolved into, I'm gonna take it off and not do much, okay? Which most of those kids work hard the first 3 years to do that. But are we really helping them out? Kind of like what Dester's saying.
I guess one of my all-time objections is that we have kids who do that, and against counseling, we say, now, wait a minute, your goal is to go to college, you're gonna have to take more math, so I'm just gonna take a year off. And so, then they come back a year later and say, I wish you would've made me take a math class. Well, what do you think I tried to get you to do? You know,
I lose
it's
that
just-
argument every year.
Huh? Every year, yes, every year, that same argument. So it's a choice thing that they end up doing. And sometimes they make good choices, and sometimes they have to regret some choices.
I was so excited to not have to take math my senior year of high school. And then once I got into college, I sure wish I had took it. I thought, why didn't they make me do dual credit?
I tried to tell you that, Joe.
Thank
You
you.
checked your schedule. I tried to tell you that.
You just told me to slow down the parking lot.
Now, we have a kid that their IPS states that they are gonna do this after high school and not go to college, maybe their family owns businesses, they're gonna take it over.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it makes sense
Mhm.
for some kids, but
Going to the HVAC.
yeah, I mean, so, every situation and kid's schedule is
Sure.
different.
I don't have any
So-
point or agenda, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
So I would like for us, this is just my own personal, desire, but I would like for any of our kids who are planning to go to college, the way our high school is set up, they could have a full year of college completed before they ever finish high school. And then when they start college, they can start already taking some of those classes that they're interested in, and rather than taking those core classes, that's when a majority of kids that drop out of college drop out in those first 2 years when they get stuck in those core classes and they're not taking anything they're interested in. And so if we could get them to get a full year, 20, even if we get 24 credits, that when they graduate from high school, they're a year ahead going into college already. And they have the ability to do that here. Now, kids that are going into CTE, I want them to finish with those and have certificates in place, so they're ready to go on and they can enter into the workforce ahead of some of the other kids who maybe have not completed some of those classes. Or they can go take classes on through the community college, or they can go into the workforce as part of their study at school. But I want there to be a purpose to it, that if they're not gonna be there, they are doing something that's gonna further them down the road when they're adults, so.
Yeah, my daughter's a sophomore, and we were just talking about future scheduling, and without trying to like overly push, it was 24 to 27 hours that she could have a college class just doing the dual credits. And you know, you made a great point that some of those classes, they get a full year, versus at a college, it might be one semester, 3 hours, where they're not getting that individual, attention. So I'm glad that our high school is offering, those the way that they do.
The cheapest credit kids can get is while they're in high school.
Yes.
Yep. So.
And we do that with math. You would've took all the algebra math, because Mrs. Felt does a review first, it's required, so it's like a college review, and then she does the dual credits actually second semester. So it's just at a slower pace, it's the whole thing, but they actually get the credit second semester. But it's taught over the whole year.
Anything else for these guys?
Thank you.
Thank you, fellas.
Appreciate it.
So, couple of notable legislation that I just want to talk about. Senate Bill 386. That is the bill that came to the Senate, that it was 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, and they're cutting it now. The way it was cut was 1 year or 2 years for to establish our enrollment if we have a decline in enrollment. Today, it's back. It's not on the floor yet. It's not on, but it's open for discussion. It's not set on a calendar yet, but the way it has been changed is that it's either current year or the average of 2 years. So that still cuts us, but it doesn't cut us as deep as going to 1 or 2, if that makes sense. So when that comes back to discussion, I'll be letting you know, and if you want to contact Trevor or Karen, Tyson, or somebody about that, I would appreciate that. You carry a lot more weight with them than I will. So the other one is special ed funding. So one of the things that they're looking at with special ed funding, I printed them off, but I didn't bring them in here. So they take how much we spent on special ed, and then they subtract out the state aid for special ed, and then they subtract out the federal money that we get for special ed, and then that ends up with how much do we have that we spend out of our local budget, our general fund, to fund special education. For us, that's about 2.4 million, I believe is what I saw. Right now, the state does not, I mean, we're basically on the hook for that.
Yes. You are.
And so that comes out of our state budget. Governor Kelly has put a bill in that the law says that the state will fund it at 92% of that money. Right now, they're funding it at 67%.
67%.
Approximately. So she's wanting to ramp that up so that it gets up to 92 over the course of 3 or 4 years. So she set aside in her budget $80 million to go toward that for this year, statewide. The Senate has been discussing making some changes in that they will prorate that $80 million out among the districts that are utilizing that money out of general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan that they have out there right now would give us an additional $300,000 in our general fund to offset what we're spending in special ed. So that would be a big help to us. That's just the first step. That'd be the same for the next several years, that it would increase. So that's a big deal. So to get to 92% of 2.4 million, that's a big chunk of money. And so if we get that in place, and if they approve that, so that is not a bill yet. They're discussing it, but Dale Dennis told me expect that to come out as a bill in the next 2 weeks. If it comes out, again, I'll let you know, and you can do with it as you please, but it would benefit us greatly. It would help offset some of that loss that we're gonna have because of lost enrollment. So anyway, we're keeping track, and I'll say keeping score.
As for you know, the Senate Bill 386, now, it's been through the House, right?
The House has approved it, and then the Senate.
And they have approved it as 1 or 2 years?
1 or 2.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
The Senate kicked it into committee, and then it came out of committee now this week, and they call it the Committee of the Whole, which means it's out there for the whole Senate to discuss.
But what I'm asking is if the Senate approves this, it's gonna go, because the House has
Correct.
already done so. So we need to be calling
But
our
they,
senators.
well, they made a change, so they made it 1 year or the average of 2.
Right.
As opposed to either or.
Okay.
So it would, the
Okay.
average of the 2 would help us.
Yeah.
I've spoke to our senator about this bill,
Mhm.
Prior to it coming back, and he understands the position that most rural areas are in. This bill was introduced by big schools because they're growing so much
Mhm.
that they needed growth to offset, they needed the money from the growth. All the small schools are declining, and so that's where we're at on this deal.
Okay. I was just curious.
But he is willing to talk to you about this, he's Senator Schaufelberger.
Yeah. Senator Schallenberger is open to talk about. So anyhow, that's where those 2 bills are. I will keep you in the loop on that. Kansas Renewal Institute, just briefly tell you a little about what that is. At the old hospital, where the hospital used to be, on the upstairs part, they're putting in I'm gonna call it, for lack of a better, to help you understand, because I needed to understand it, a mental hospital, a mental health facility there'll be adolescents in 2 of the wings, and they'll have adults in 2 wings. The adolescents, at maximum capacity, they would have 50 kids. Now, the waiting list across the state they have over 100 kids on the waiting list waiting to get into an inpatient place. And so, they already are licensed, they're ready to go. They're talking about that they're gonna be able to open in April. They believe, and I believe that this is true, that they'll probably open and have 30 right off the bat. Now, that doesn't affect us in the fact that those kids will not come to school in our schools, but I will have to hire a teacher to be there to provide education on site. That's the way they do it in Osawatomie, and there's 4 other institutions in Kansas that do that, one in Topeka. I don't know the names of all of them. But they will come here from all over the state of Kansas. They're all sent here by the state of Kansas. They have to qualify, they have to go through all these hoops to be able to come to that facility. We just have to provide a teacher that would work with them so that they would continue to get educated while they're here. A lot of these kids will also have IEPs, so they'll have to be special education. Now, how will that help us? It will count on our enrollment. Every one of those kids will count on our enrollment. I've heard lots of pros, cons, things like that. I've met with these guys out there. The adults that will be coming, they're focusing on eating disorders in particular. There's no other one in the state of Kansas. And the other one is on substance abuse. They're not taking in homeless people and then turning them out. That isn't how it works. They're working with families and things. They would go back to their homes where they're from and be a part of the community where they're from. So anyway, I'm just letting you know that we're going to be advertising. We need to get somebody in place by the 1st of April to start providing these services for education. So we'll have April and May, and then we'll be looking at filling for all of next year. But we'll be working with them, probably piece it together here in April and May. We can't find somebody in April or May who's looking for a job to teach now.
Will this be a 12-month position then?
No, they'll be on the same schedule as we are. So when we are in school, they're in school. When we have summer school, they have summer school. But the rest of the time, they are off like everybody else. They're not off. They would have, they have a lot of group therapy sessions, things like that. We provide basically half a day of education. The rest of the half a day, the other half of the day is spent in therapy, activities, things like that to work with the kids. So that's what I've been told at this point. And Dave actually went with me out there to meet with them. So what am I forgetting, Dave?
The only thing I can think of is that they can partner with our school if we have somebody that needs some.
Yeah, so I had asked
something.
them if we have some students especially at the elementary level, we have some students that they benefit, if there could be a benefit, if they could have that, if that could be an alternative setting for some of our elementary students who really have behavior issues and mental health issues, that they can go there. So I misspoke by saying it's all about mental health. It's also behaviors and mental health. So anyhow, I don't know much more than what I've shared with you, but what questions do you have?
So you said there would be a potential for 50 slots in there. You said it was half day, so would it be, would we be compensated like we are for half day preschool? So it would be like 25 full-time slots, or?
I'm gonna go visit at Osawatomie and find out, but my understanding is they'd be full-time.
Wow.
Because they are being educated full-time, we're just providing it half of the time.
Okay.
And our teacher is on site the other half of the time. So, time.
Thank you. I guess I don't understand, is it K through 12 or what, did I miss that?
So it's ages, they told me 6 to 22, but the 22 is kids who have maybe an IEP that they stay on till they're 21, and if they turn 21, then they can stay until they finish the year. Is that right?
Yes.
So they could be 22 when they finish.
You
But
just need one teacher for age 6 to 22?
actually need 2, but probably in April I need 1. So, we need to hire 2 teachers for, next fall. What else?
If any of the local students, any of the Fort Scott students were to qualify for something like that, that would be a team decision made by that IEP team.
Mhm.
It's not like that would just become an automatic placement, that would be an IEP team decision per student. So I just wanted to mention that.
And we've had some kids, the average stay for kids in those, hospitals right now is 6 months, is what they told us. And that's pretty much in line with the students that we have that are in hospital settings now. They've been in longer than 6 months, actually. So most of them have been even 9 months, and I have one that is, in there, that's been there longer than that. So, but it would also give us a chance that our parents aren't having to place their kids in Topeka and then figure out how they can go see them maybe once a month, or they can come home for a visit once a month, that they could possibly be here in Fort Scott. And that would be a lot easier on families. They could do the family therapy and stuff that they're required to do very easily that way. And then when we have kids like the ones we have, when they're transitioning back, it'd be great for us to have a transition that we could have them go there part of the day and be in the school part of the day, for kids from Fort Scott. Because right now, the one that came back recently, I mean, he's just back in the school setting full-time, and he's been in the hospital full-time for the last 8 months. And anyway, it just
Help with the transition.
it would help transitioning back, so. So I just wanted to let you know that that's being discussed, and just introducing it to you. I'll know more, coming up, but if April is truly gonna be their opening, it'll be before the next board meeting. So, anyhow. Preschool, update on design. They're gonna be here this week, meet with, Nick. They're gonna go out and do some measuring, and do some things, and work with Nick and I, and then they'll be coming back and meeting with each of the teachers and talking about what they need in their classrooms and things like that. So we're just in the beginning stages of that design part. But, they are starting this week and coming to Fort Scott and doing some visits and meeting with us, so, anyway, that's all I have for my reports. That was long tonight.
It was.
How many preschool classrooms are they looking at?
Right now we have 3, so 5, plus Head Start, so 6.
It seemed long, but there was a lot of good information there. Thank you. Selena?
Behind your guys' agenda, there is another copy of that PowerPoint that Mr. Kimball shared with you. I printed that in February, had a family emergency, was not here to share it. Better for you guys to have 2 copies than me to have 10, so feel free to share that with somebody else if you would like. The last 2 pages paired behind that though, we've got our iReady scores from fall and winter to just kind of compare quickly. So basically the simplistic view of this is we want to increase our green scores and we want to decrease our red scores. So the green are students who are on grade level or above grade level, and those red students are those that are below grade level. And so we've been very intentional this year with interventions looking at what our students know, what are those gaps that they have, and teaching specifically to those gaps so that we can close them and those students can be able to be exposed and successful with grade level content. So first, the top one is the reading, and if you look district-wide, right below the two colored bars, we have 144 students that are mid or above grade level, and that is up from 85 students in the fall. So we've got quite a few students that we've shifted over into that highest category. The regular green are those who are just on their current grade level at 189 students, which is up from 124. So a lot of times we would see kids moving out of the red and they'd start to move to that yellow, but we would have a lot of kids that kind of sat in that yellow. And so really this year our teachers have done an amazing job of going ahead and not only decreasing those that are in our tier 3, but we're pushing those kids farther and closer to where we would want them to be on grade level and successful, or even above that level. If you look on the back side of that one, it also has the breakdown by building. High school is blank because we don't utilize that as the building-wide assessment tool. So that's why there isn't any data there. But you can see Eugene Ware, huge gains for those tier 1, the green students, and reducing those tier 3 students. Middle school, you'll notice that the change is not as drastic. They did a lot of shifting in the fall to figure out how they would best utilize and implement those interventions. And so we're hoping to see even better results for them from winter to spring because they've kind of refined that this spring semester. And then if you look at Winfield Scott, there's a huge number of students that they have moved into that on grade level category. The page behind that is the math. It's set up exactly the same. For that group of students, you'll notice the increase for those tier 1 students is even more dramatic. So they've almost doubled the students that they have in that on or above grade level. Again, looking at by building, you see the same kind of increases. It's a lot stronger at the elementary. In middle school, we look forward to seeing what that looks like come spring. In the past, what we have seen though is as students move through the school year at middle school, a lot of times we saw that tier 3 group get a lot bigger. So the fact that it is not growing and it is continuing to shrink is already encouraging. There's a lot of time and effort that staff members have put into making sure that we are assessing students properly, we're getting them in the right groups, we're providing the right instruction. Using iReady as that tool has been a huge asset to be able to do that, but there's still a lot of manpower that it takes to be able to close those gaps and get those students where they need to be, and the students to have the confidence to perform successfully when they take those assessments. A lot of our title teachers put in a lot of hours to make that happen and help our kids be successful. Our classroom teachers, they've got groups as well. We've also got a lot of paras who are jumping in, and whether they're supporting during that time or they're pulling smaller groups within the classroom, it really is an all hands on deck to make that happen. Speaking of assessments, as soon as we come back from spring break, we kind of transition into the spring assessment window, and it seems like it's a mad dash to the end of the school year. So we'll have state assessments. Our 3rd graders have typically been our youngest kiddos that would take state assessments. Last year they did a pilot with 2nd grade reading assessments. And so our 2nd grade students will again take that. It looks a little bit different when they get scores back. It really provides a lot of information to our teachers. You guys have invested a lot of time and resources into providing that PLC time for teachers, and it has greatly shifted what those conversations look like. So when we get things like iReady or state assessment scores back, it's not just talking about Johnny was in the green, but it's really looking at what are the standards that we've identified as those essential standards, how are we performing on those standards, what needs to change, have we omitted something that we should add, are we spending a lot of time on something that maybe isn't included in these items. So the conversations that are happening within those teams are very different, and it's directly impacting the instruction. And I think that is a huge reason why we're seeing shifts, and it's nice to look forward to what state assessments will look like rather than dreading moving into that season. I think our teachers have done quite a bit of work this year to really align with those state assessments. Out at the middle level, they spent a lot of time this year taking those interim assessments. So the state provides 3 smaller tests throughout the course of the school year. And over those 3 tests, they're exposed to the items that are then on the state assessments. What becomes a little tricky with that is sometimes when you take that first assessment in October, you've not yet taught that item. And because those are short interim assessments, they don't necessarily go back and see that item again until they get to that summative assessment at the end of the year. The state's working to make those a little bit better for next year. We'll see science available for students next year, and they will reduce those 3 testing windows down to 2. So that'll make it a little more feasible for our teachers to use it, have students comfortable with the format of state assessments, and hopefully that would help them be more successful when they take it. I think the other big thing, I just really want to commend our teachers who are participating in letters training. Structured literacy is really one of those big focuses that the state has right now, one of their 4 big items. And we have had quite a few teachers that have committed to going through that letters training, and it's a 2-year commitment. They are doing 4 days of full PD each of the 2 years. They're doing modules between those trainings. There's a lot of in-classroom work where they're applying it with students, and it's not lighthearted reading. And so for them to take that on, as well as their regular duties, it's a great thing for our kids and a great thing for our staff. So to see them get behind it and support it, I really want to recognize them for the time and efforts that they've put into it, because it's making them better teachers. And again, it's another one of those reasons why we're seeing increases in our student scores.
Okay.
Move on.
Tom?
Move on to Tanya.
I'll keep this short and sweet. There's a lot of great things going on in special ed. This is green. So one thing, money, revenue in special ed. We're coming up on payment number 3 that will be paid to the district. And there's 5 special ed payments over the year, so we'll have 2 more left. This is the first one that is not just whatever I've claimed, okay? This is gonna be based all on just what's eligible, meaning licensure, and everything has to click through licensure. And so I'm waiting on Evelyn Alden at the state to say, hey, we've got this done, it's locked, everything's gonna pay. But as of right now, our payment 2, which was back in December, our professional FTE was 28.03, and for payment 3, it is up 3.7 FTE, which is times 30,800, so that helps. Then our paras, we were at 76.88 in December that was eligible, and now we are at 100.52. So we have gone up significantly. A lot of that is just getting all the licensures in place, our waiver teachers, and our, getting our substitutes approved, doing several things like the OT licenses renew March 31st. So right now they're showing discrepancies because they don't kick in until that date. So March, doesn't show that whole thing is eligible. So they're showing at 0.81. And so just juggling all of that and kind of knowing what to look for. So I'm very excited about the March 15th payment. And so as you can see, I mentioned to you last month that we are in the replacement state aid Medicaid window. And that is a chunk of money that will be prorated out to the districts, and those people that are involved there are listed. And I would like to add Brett Campbell. Brett Campbell is back in action, and I was made aware of that today. Karen McCullough had been covering for him while he had a medical absence, but he is back now, and he's been released to work. So he's part of that as well. I've been meeting with para and teacher leadership teams for special ed. I was very pleased. I met with the para leadership team on Friday, and we talked quite a bit about the morale in the buildings. I feel like overall, and they agree with me, things are moving in a very positive direction, but we still have lots to do. So we are going to get together later this month and create a para survey, and it's going to be written by the para leadership team, and I'll work with them. And then they will take that back to their buildings, and it's optional. It will be anonymous. It will be all on paper, nothing, that they have to do on the computer, and they can just give us feedback. And I'm looking forward to that, So anyway, there's lots going on in the district, and lots of things to attend. So do y'all have any questions for me? Things are going well. It's very busy. We're gonna be getting ready for the end of the year. Tomorrow we have a Zoom to help the Winfield Scott kiddos that are gonna be transitioning over to Eugene Ware. I mean, you know, it's time to start those conversations, so. Anything for me? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Finance side, investments, so just want you to know that, we just have invested $4 million, of our idle funds. And we split it up because I had 3 different banks that were between 5 and 5.1. And so we put $1 million at Citizens Bank out on the highway, we have $1 million at UMB, and we have 2 at Landmark. And, so that's spread out a little bit, but I feel like that's good for our community and that we utilize, all the banks and we give them all a chance. As I told the smaller banks, if they wanted to be in that, I'd break it down so that they didn't have to take the whole $4 million, because they couldn't. And so, I think in the future, I'm gonna work with, some of the other small banks, because they won't take anything less than a 90-day, and I was doing this one on a 30. And so I was just, this first time that Hannah and I have done it, and I didn't wanna overcommit and then regret it later and have to do something crazy and take it out early. So, we just did 30 days this time, and, so I just wanted to let you know that. April premium pay, we'll be doing our spring premium pay for staff. That's, if they've been working in the district, they get $1,000 premium pay as part of our ESSER money, the COVID money that came in. And so we'll be doing that the first week of April is our plan to release that. So, and we're doing payday early this month because of spring break too, so everybody's gonna be paid on this Friday rather than on the 20th. So, it'll be a little different. It'll be a long payday till the next payday. That's why we're doing that premium in this, to help offset that, so.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Let's move on to old business and talk about our cell phone policy.
So, the only thing I wanted to do is just update you on where we are. I met with the principals, we've talked about that. Cell phone policy, we want it to be a district-wide policy, not just, high school. And so we're working on that. They're talking to their staff, and I'll be talking with, the KNEA group as well, and just getting some input. I think we all want the same thing. We just have to figure out how to get there so that it makes sense to everybody. And we have some, quite honestly, we have some staff members that, so like Tabs that was here tonight, she has to use her cell phone sometimes when if a kid is out of control and maybe physically attacking her or somebody, they use their cell phone to get to the office. And so we're gonna have to have some exceptions to some of the things that we expect, but I think they will make sense, and I think we can get where we need to be on that. So just letting you know, we're also looking at some little pockets that hold cell phones, and they actually lock them in the pockets. The kids can keep them with them, but they can't get them out. It takes a magnet, kinda like when you buy clothes, to be able to open it. And so when they come in, they lock it, and when they leave, that way you don't have to worry about if they're locked in lockers or if they're getting stolen or whatever. I tell you, but anyway, we're looking at some options, for all of that stuff. It's becoming pretty statewide. Many districts are going to go to no cell phone policy. And the legislature even has a bill right now that would no student cell phones in schools, bill right now. So
There's data that shows, though, that our kids are better off without their phone at school. I mean, it's obvious. You know, if we get them a pouch or whatever, that fixes the enforcement problem that we've had. I mean, how long have we had a cell phone policy? At least
Yeah.
10 years?
Probably.
And so, and that policy's never really been enforced. So taking it out of the enforcement's hands by a pouch or whatever we have, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's 10 districts coming on with this particular pouch, in the state of Kansas. They started out actually as a company that did it for comedians, because you can't record a comedian.
Yeah.
So they made these pouches so that people had to put them in their phones in the pouch to go to the deal. And so, anyway, now they're doing them for schools.
Is there any ESSER money we could use for that left?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
So that's where we talked to the staff. Right? Principals, teachers, employees,
Students.
students, that's my next question.
Yes.
You know, I mean, because I
Talking
think there's
to
gotta be a
students.
voice there
Yeah.
at some point. And then, has there been any site council discussion?
So they'll be doing that at our next site council.
Okay.
But the kids, there's been a lot of discussion among the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And, they, of course, have a
Come to my
million
house.
reasons. Why we can't do it, or why they have to have their phone. But,
I'm not looking forward to History Club Thursday.
yeah, but
Well, but
the word's out there.
Well,
Yeah.
but I'm just glad we give them a voice, you know, we give parents a voice, we at least,
Yeah.
we need to hear them.
So, anyway, I just wanted you to know what, we're still working on it, that's why I put it on there tonight.
I have one quick question.
Yes?
When I was looking through at the middle school and high school handbook, I believe it's the high school one that stated in it that it was by classroom, there could be exceptions. There will be no exceptions.
Correct.
Okay.
Nothing they can do, they can't do with their Chromebooks or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to new business, 8.1, the approval of the 24-25 school calendar.
Well,
This
that
is-
calendar, it has the same number of days as it did last year, total days for staff, if you go toward the bottom. It actually has one more student day. So this year we only had 159 student days, next year there'll be 160. But there's still 175 contract days, so, the hours, we have to have 1,116 hours. This will give us 40 hours of, if we have to have cancellations or whatever for snow, that would be almost 6 days. So I don't know the last time we had to miss that many days, probably in Fort Scott, so it's been a long time.
Have you had a negotiations meeting?
I have not.
Okay.
They,
Do we have one
but they
scheduled?
helped with this.
Okay.
On the calendar. And, so we will approve it tonight, but it'll be pending negotiations in case something changes. But they always want me to make sure I say that. So we'll approve it tonight, pending negotiations. But they helped with this, and I've met with them about it as well.
What board members are on negotiations now? Because wasn't Gary a negotiations guy?
Yes.
And then, are you
So-
still on negotiations?
I wasn't on it, but I guess I am now.
Yes, he defaulted.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Do we have, who is on negotiations?
We haven't decided that.
Okay.
So we'll need to talk about that.
Yep. Looks like Danny volunteered, I heard.
Retract.
Is there a motion to approve the pending pending school board calendar, or school calendar for next year?
Yes, I'll move to approve the proposed calendar for the 2024-25 year pending negotiations.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for the calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to purchasing of a school bus for $113,071.
This is just part of that yearly that we replace a bus, and, we are not purchasing any that are not air conditioned any longer.
Well, this-
That bid doesn't
As hot
say-
as it's been in the summers especially, it's been brutal with those buses.
Hot today.
That bid doesn't say if it's a gas or diesel bus.
It is a gas,
And this is for a route bus?
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on the school bus?
So the price we're voting for is the 113, or when you open this Google Drive with all these additions, is the total 126, 179, the configured price. So it's $13,000 more, and it's fine,
Yes.
everything added was, it's
Yes.
fine, it's not like it's, you know, some
So,
TVs or
yes,
anything
and I
like that.
did not catch that when I gave that over to Candace, and so she pulled it off of the first number.
Yeah, it looks
So-
like the biggest chunk is the air conditioning, which I'm
Yes.
totally agree with, so
All right,
that's fine.
yes.
So, yes, so we need to change that amount. That was a good catch, thank you. And that was the low bid, the other bids were all at least 130 and up.
So we're looking at 126, 179?
Yep.
Okay, so purchase of the school bus.
Sorry about that.
$126,179.
Is that about the going, I've never bought a bus, but is that about the going rate annually that we spend on
Yes.
buying buses?
They've gone way up.
I bought fire trucks, and don't get me started on that, but,
They were, about 3 or 4 years ago even, they were about 100,000.
Okay.
And now they're up 126,000.
Look at ambulances.
Do they remanufacture these buses?
water tank on these for that price?
I used to do that for a summer job.
Oh,
in high school.
Back in the 80s, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Remanufacture.
Yeah, they took them and completely stripped them, like, I mean, they bare bones them and everything, rebuilt motor trannies,
Oh, yeah.
repaint, new seats, new heat and everything.
So, yeah, now
I don't know if they should.
now the law, they have to be replaced after a certain number of
Yeah.
years.
They can only be so many years old and have to get rid of them.
But they raised that number.
Yeah.
I think it's 25 years now.
Well, they should, for what they cost anymore.
Oh, yeah.
It should go up. And they should be more reliable than what they used to be, so, I mean, you would think.
Do we have a motion on the purchase of the school bus?
Do we need to amend that price, or?
Yes,
We
we have to
are-
amend the price.
It'll just be, we've discussed it,
Okay.
so it'll be at that $126,179.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the purchase of the bus at that adjusted price that we discussed there.
A second.
Motion and a second
Just so
on the
you guys
school
know,
bus.
we have that budgeted every year.
Mhm.
And then we will also be replacing, some other vehicles in the district that need to be replaced, with money that we have budgeted for that.
All in
But
favor,
tonight, we're
say
doing buses.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public forum, Mr. Garzoni, you here to speak?
No, my daughter was just here taking notes for
Oh.
Pitt State.
All right.
Well,
So I
good.
came as a supporting father.
Well, I saw, she was, I was
Oh, yeah,
like,
they're
she's
good.
really taking notes. I thought, wow. So,
All right, I move that the board enters executive session to discuss employment for personnel for the 2023-24 school year pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and for the meeting to resume in the boardroom at, 10 minutes work, please?
10 minutes.
7:20. And the board invites Destry and Tanya, and Delana.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
so we're just kicking you out. You're the only one. I'll second that.
Motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approve, same sign. Okay. See you.
writing, and there's been no communication that I have been able to make with her since.
Make a motion on the employment.
Yes, I'll go ahead. I move the approval of the employment item as presented on the personnel report pending the background check, completion of pre-employment training, paperwork, and interview with the superintendent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for employment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So we'll move on to 10.4, the resolution to terminate the teacher's contract.
I move approval of Resolution 23-16, intent to terminate a teacher's contract.
I think that, do we name them?
Probably not.
I don't think
Not
so.
until we terminate.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think so.
I haven't, this is a new one, I haven't done it in my years, so.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.